the first living pictures from the blue.
That was Stooky Bill, a puppet skit transmitted by John Baird from his home attic in 1926. Baird was the guy who invented the TV, and it was the first broadcast in the history of television. Interestingly, the word television was coined in the 20th century, and it means vision from a distance. And there's a figure in mythology who literally owns the power to do television. In the Mahabharata war, there was a guy called Sanjay who was blessed with Divya Drishti, the ability to see things at a distance. And he was the advisor of the king, the blind king Dhritarashtra, and he narrated the entire war to him live from a distance as it was happening. But here's the question that popped into my head. How could Dhritarashtra, being the wise king that he was, could just believe Sanjay at face value? I mean, what if Sanjay was cooking something up? Well, I found this to be the perfect analogy to explain the ever-eluding concept of blockchain proof of work to my brother Shubham, who's also the editor of this video. This proof of work stuff is something which is a lot in current debates as something that might cause a huge climate change problem. I'm not going to go through the basics of blockchain in this video. I'm going to assume that you already know the basic stuff and are looking for a deeper analogy, a deeper understanding to make sense of things. But if you do want to know the basics of blockchain, you can check out this other video that we have made. So what is Bitcoin proof of work?
I feel like Bitcoin is protected by a wall of encrypted energy.
Bitcoin is boiling the oceans, or that it's a waste of energy is diametrically wrong. It's 180 degrees wrong. It's wrong.
The fact that there's a lot of energy involved, I think, is a good thing. It creates security to the network.
Whose computers are these? Well, anyone's. Can we get involved in this computer race? All about
proof of work is
there's a race to solve a puzzle.
Any story is made up of events that are connected. One event leads to another, that leads to another, and so on. The movement of Bitcoin from wallet to wallet is something like that, isn't? Back to the Mahabharata, I wonder if the king Dhritarashtra could rely on Sanjay. That is a single sort of a central entity to discover what the truth is. What other option did he have? He could have put another person at the war site and could have then tallied the story told by Sanjay and this confirmer later. But if they disagreed, who would he believe? And since it's just two people, वो आपस में मिलके राजा के against कुछ षड्यंत्र भी रच सकते हैं. What if the king employed two confirmers instead? The king realized the more people he gets involved into this, the less likely are the chances of them conspiring together. I mean, ज़्यादा लोगों के सोच विचार मिलने की probability बहुत कम हो जाती है, right? So here's what he could do if he was insistent on knowing the truth and truth alone. Indulge my imagination for a bit here. Let's say the king employed 100 people to do this. फिर उन्हें एक एक करके वो war site तक दौड़ लगाने के लिए कहता है. वहाँ जाकर let's say they have to stay for exactly 5 minutes. Observe the war, write down what is happening event by event in a piece of paper, and then run back to the king to submit their paper. Once done, they run back to the war site for the next piece. Let's call these pieces of paper the block and the runners the miners. The king had made the runners start randomly, which resulted in the blocks coming to him randomized, which is important so that the runners are less likely to collaborate with each other against the king. Using the miners, the king would not have to rely on a single man, but an assembled story of blocks gathered from 100 different people, which greatly reduces the chances of them cooperating together against the king. The king was happy, and he decided he would pay out each miner or a runner with a valuable Dhrit coin every time they came back to report a piece. Now the miners were also charged up and motivated to run for the king. This worked completely fine, but then the king realized that one could still cheat him by not doing the work of running to the site and just casually writing any cooked up story in a piece of paper and submitting it to him for a Dhrit coin or for whatever reason. So the smart king deploys a mechanism. he places one of his most loyal soldiers at the war site to give out a royal token to these miners which cannot be faked. And each time a miner came back to report a block, he'd have to submit that royal token as a proof that yes, I did go and work for this, and that's it. Problem solved. Well, you might say that the soldier giving out the token, वो भी तो corrupt हो सकता है, right? And good point. But in my analogy, that loyal soldier is going to be replaced by technology, so we don't have to worry about that. And you might also ask that Dhritarashtra being a blind king, how is he reading all these stories? So don't worry about that. That's also be gonna taken care by the technology. So yeah. The king keeps collecting these blocks with the proofs and keeps chaining them together to form a unified story, a single source of truth. Let's get back to reality for a minute here. The king here is obviously the blockchain system, and the miners are the Bitcoin miners. It's actually their computers, which is doing this running by doing heavy processing to solve tough mathematical cryptic puzzles. These puzzles are useless. In the same way, running of the people to the war site in some sense is a useless activity. Only it makes sure कि कोई भी मुंह उठा के कुछ भी अनशंट ना अपडेट कर दे. It makes sure that there's a price to be paid, which might not be much for an individual, but for a mass spammer, it could be a nightmare. So you have to do some work to get to update the blocks in the main story or in the main system. And that's the proof of work. But I know this is not convincing. I mean, even if a miner is running all the way to the war site, वो तब भी तो घपला कर सकता है ना. He can just write anything cooked up in a piece of paper and give it to the blind king. Interestingly, the system kind of takes care of that automatically. For example, if a block A said warrior X killed warrior Y, and another block with the same timestamp says warrior Y killed warrior X, then the king wouldn't know which is the truth, right? And this conflict would prompt the Raja to create two branches to the main story. And there can be more blocks with conflicting information. Let's call this phenomena forking, because that's what it's called in the actual blockchain world. पर घबराने की कोई बात नहीं है, because this conflict can be automatically resolved. All that the king would need to do is wait. Just wait for more blocks to come. Because in the long run, the future blocks will obviously make sense only with the correct version of the first block, because all the events are connected. So only the true branch will grow and the rest will eventually die out. Do you get it? Yes, Drill Sergeant! All the blocks are being randomly selected, right? So for the wrong branch to grow, all the blocks coming after it must be corrupted and must be in sync with the original corrupted story of the wrong block which started this whole thing, which is highly improbable in a randomly distributed system like this. Hence the king makes a rule that in case of any such forking, he shall first wait and then would believe only the chain of blocks that becomes naturally longer. And that's the rule with actual blockchain as well. If you look into the whole thing, it is designed to make hacking almost impossible. Now that's the concept of proof of work. Not yet though. Soon more people heard about the opportunity to earn Dhrit coins and join the king's army. The king thought, aren't though, as it makes the system more randomized and reduces the chances of fraud. Some of the miners got smart and used new methods to improve their speed, like horses and carts. That didn't bother the king, because it only increased the frequency with which they were getting their reward. The blocks were still coming in randomized. In the blockchain world, that's like using high-end processors like GPUs and ASICs to up your processing power. But there was a problem piling up at the king's end. Once too many people joined the race, he was getting overwhelmed with so many story blocks coming to him one after the other. And also he was losing the Dhrit coins much faster than before. He figured that he needed at least 10 minutes between two blocks to make sense of the story. But what could he do? He tried to ask the miners to slow down, but that didn't work. So the king decided to put additional hurdles on the road to the war site and keep increasing it as more and more people joined in. Basically to make sure that the blocks arrive at least at a gap of 10 minutes. For those who may not know, in the Bitcoin blockchain, a block gets added once in 10 minutes only. And the math puzzles get tougher and tougher as more and more miners, that is more processing power, gets added to the whole system. The king still had the rapid cash burn problem. And to solve that, he decided that he would only release a fixed amount of Dhrit coins for this entire project, say 21 million Bitcoins. And he would also do that at a constant rate so that he can predict when he would run out. So as more and more people join, the award per person goes down because the total amount to be given out in a day or whatever is now fixed. As you may know, the total amount of actual Bitcoin to be released is also fixed at 21 million. And there's a reliable prediction that it might completely go out by the year 2140. And yeah, the reward is also going down with time. So that's the proof of, alright, there's more. The king here is not just a representation of the blockchain system, which in the real world is just a technological tool. The king you see is also a verifier of the facts, right? Which in the actual blockchain world, in absence of a central authority, is done by the miners themselves. So it is the group of miners which not only records the transactions and digs out the Bitcoin by showing the proof of work, but they also verify the blocks created by other miners. Now that's the proof of work. Hope this made sense. If you want to go further deep technically, to understand these cryptic puzzles, SHA-256 and nonces and hashes and all that, then I have linked some awesome videos in the description. Especially watch the video by 3Blue1Brown. He has explained it mathematically really well. Proof of work does significantly reduce the chances of cheating the system, but it uses tons of electrical energy. As of today, just to do this useless processing, we are burning enough energy that can power an entire country. And hence this. Can we continue to burn power towards no useful output? Will it not be better to use those 100 people, which in case of blockchain are millions of computers and tons of energy, to do something more productive? There are alternatives like proof of stake, etc., but it comes with its own problems. Anyway, that's the debate the world is having right now. And now that you get the concept behind it, sort of, maybe you can join it as well.
Why should they? Because it's what they want. Aye, maybe. But what will they get? Well, I can't rightly say. But the biggest problem is solved. What remains is up to them.